Welcome to Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things strange and unusual, prophetic and Peruvian, real and raw, and everything in between. Every time we get together, we talk about something weird, and you get to reap the benefits. This week is going to be a roller coaster of emotions. You're probably going to get a little worried when we discuss an end times prophecy that seems to be coming true. You will be absolutely horrified as we discuss a reality TV show that should have never existed. And you will be fascinated and frustrated by an update on a recent strange phenomenon as we discuss whether it is real or hoax.
Fasten your seatbelts and pull down on the lap bar in front of you. Keep your arms and legs inside the car at all times. Hold on to any hats, glasses, cameras, or loose objects because it's going to get pretty wild. Hold on tight and enjoy your ride on the Weird Train.
My name is Ashley, and this is my co-host and mother of a kindergartner, Lauren.
Hi, weirdos. Don't make me cry.
I'm so sorry
right
to bring it up again. I'm so sorry to bring it up again.
In a sensitive place.
This is day one of kindergarten, everybody. Hold on.
Shout out to everybody with kids starting school, which I feel like one of our listeners just recently said she put her kid in school and was a disaster of a person. I was like, I feel you.
Listen. Back
to school. It's like, even if your kid is thriving, it's a lot. But I know better days are ahead. He had I'm not going to go too much into it. We have a lot to get to on this episode, but he had a horrific first drop off. Like the worst it could have gone, like being peeled off of our bodies by 3 adults screaming.
I hate that.
But it's my fault because I was a stay-at-home mom, like not by choice during COVID. Yeah, and I was also crying. I was a stay-at-home mom, like not by choice, but because COVID happened and like we were stuck together through all of that. And then I decided to take a job at his preschool. So we have never been apart.
Yeah.
So he was just like, excuse me, you're leaving?
He was like, mother, the woman who's with me every moment of every day.
Where do you think you're going,
Where do you think you're going?
Listen, hussy, you better come on back over here.
Do you think you're going to enjoy teaching preschool more are you teaching preschool? Are you going to continue to teach preschool?
I am. Okay. And yes, sure. So I am continuing teaching, and that is a good question. It was the question of the day because people were like, oh, did you only do this out of convenience and to help the school? And yes, that was the answer at first, but I have fallen in love with it now. And there were stretches of time where Wilder wasn't coming as much last year because of like illness and a bunch of other things. And I was thriving, and I feel so bad, but I was like, I love that I get to invest in these kids more and just be a teacher without out of the corner of my eye being like, oh my God, what is Wilder doing? Is he throwing dirt on somebody? Did he just poop his pants? What is going on? So I am very excited to just be a teacher, and preschool age, as wild as it is weirdly my favorite. And like I love little 3 and 4-year-olds who are just like a mess. It's so great,
like a ball of energy.
Yes, but they're so like full of awe and wonder, so they're also just like such lovely little creatures, but they might murder us at any time, so
they're also tiny little sociopaths, and thank God they're as weak as they are.
I know, truly, Lord. But yeah, that's the latest.
Well, I love it, and I'm sorry that it has been such an emotionally taxing day for the 2 of you, 3 of you probably. I'm sure Dad is probably in his feels a little bit as well. But
I know you'd never know it with Alex, but he did say, he was like, I need a minute, because he came to drop off as well, which I appreciated, because Lord, did we need it. We needed 2 people. But he was like, I need to go home and recover before I start my work day. I was like, I know. So we're all in our feels, but also so proud of him, and we need space. So this is going to be healthy for us.
Space is good. Space is very good. It's good for, both of you, all 3 of you.
Help, I'm being held hostage by 5. I think I've said that so many times on this episode, and people are going to be concerned. But anyway.
She's fine, everybody. We do have a lot to get to on this episode, so let's get into it. First off, it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. I actually feel fine this time.
Oh, you've come to peace with the end?
Honestly, I've come to peace with it. I've come to terms with it. I'm ready to go.
Okay, I'm going to say, and I feel a little apprehensive, but I am ready to be fine, hopefully by the end of the story.
Oh, you won't. No, this segment is going to put an end to all of the good feelings that you might have about the world today.
Well, hooray.
Okay. Today I'm teaching y'all about the prophecy of Saint Malachi, or as it's more often referred to, the prophecy of the popes.
Oh, yes. I have not done enough of a deep dive. I'm so stoked.
Remember when we were texting and I was like, I swear I've already done this. Like, I remember doing it and I couldn't find any evidence. I like Googled keep it weird Pope. Keep it weird.
I love that you do that because I do that as well when I'm trying to see if we did it.
Because sometimes it'll come up and be like, oh, keep it weird, ancient electricity. And I'm like, oh, fucking great.
I'm so glad.
And nothing. And I looked through our end times episodes where we talked about like end times prophecies. It wasn't there. And I was going crazy. So I was like, maybe I haven't done it. So I started doing my research and like every step of the way, I'm like, I've done this before. So finally I was like, well, whatever. I'm just going to do it. Then after I get all my notes done, I decide, oh, you know what? I didn't look in our OneDrive. So I searched in our OneDrive, in my OneDrive, and I found it. I wrote notes on this in 2020 in our finale episode. Oh. It was like a finale. It was me, you, and Joe doing like an end of the year roundup. Yeah.
Yes. That's why.
I took all the notes for it, and naturally, you, me, and Joe couldn't stick to the script. I never freaking did it. So I've taken notes on this, and now here we are 4 years later.
Yes. And I thought it was familiar, but not as much as you, because you took full on notes on it. But I was going to talk about it on our like apocalypse or prophecy episode, but we already had so much that I was like, I'm going to leave this out. So it's just like, oh my gosh, it's meant to be.
It's meant to be.
Prophecy fulfilled.
And there was a little bit of a synchronicity too, because the person who initially told me about this prophecy was Andrew Miller. What? Hey, Mill. You guys remember that name?
What up, Andrew? Still have never met you, but I feel like I know you and I love you.
And literally, like 5 days ago, I'm hanging out with Andrew Miller, which is the first time this year in 2024.
Which is wild.
That I've even seen him aside from his wedding. And I told him, like, oh, by the way, I'm finally doing this story we talked about 4 years ago. So here we are 4 years later, and not a moment too soon.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Ashley.
So back in the day, Nostradamus wasn't the only guy who was writing cryptic revelations and prophecies about the future. Saint Malachi was doing the same thing. This was back in 1100 AD.
Okay.
So Saint Malachi was the Archbishop of Armagh and the first ever native-born Irish saint to be formally canonized. He was attributed several miracles, and they were the usual: healing the sick, exorcisms, and even bringing fish back to the island when people were starving. But he was most well known for his supposed gift of prophecy. Saint Bernard claims he even predicted the day and hour of his own death. But, of course, we all have to just take Bernard's word for that.
Bernard.
No one got it on tape. Okay? So,
also, if, like, you can't just say Saint Bernard, and I'm not going to imagine that he looks like a giant dog.
Like Beethoven.
We literally talked about this on our last episode.
Did it.
Can't get those dogs.
You're thinking of a Bernese Mountain Dog. Beethoven is a Saint Bernard.
Oh my God! Why can I not?
Why can you not remember these dogs?
Just enough. Don't. I can't get these dogs straight. Oh, continue, Saint Bernard.
So he predicted his own death. Whatever, Saint Malachi. He died. He's dead. But then,
okay, he's gone.
In 1590, so this is like 400 years later, Benedictine Arnold de Wyon discovered and published a manuscript that was supposedly written by Saint Malachi that he found in the Vatican archives. The manuscript contains 112 cryptic Latin phrases that Saint Malachi supposedly jotted down after he had gone into a trance and received a strange vision in which he foresaw all of the popes from that moment to the end of days.
Wild.
And much like Nostradamus, now that we live in the future, we can look at the list he made and make comparisons to like each corresponding pope and his cryptic writings and the similarities, and it's wild. And I'll give you a few examples here regarding some of our little popies of the past.
Let's hear about the little popies.
I also learned a lot about some popes, which I enjoyed. So
I was gonna say, I'm like, I know like 2 popes, so I'm excited for you to educate me. I had to hear them in like my Catholic upbringing, but like really didn't know anything.
I was Lutheran, so we didn't do popes or saints, which is kind of a bummer because I feel like saints are really magical and witchy.
They totally are. That is the one part I loved about Catholicism, was when we would talk about the saints, because it was like, if you've lost something, just pray to this saint, and that feels so witchy. It's basically like, hold this crystal.
Exactly.
And think about it real hard.
The 85th Pope.
Pope back to
Clement the 10th. Was written as being from a great river. Now, Pope Clement was the pope from 1670 to 1676. So this was long after St. Malachi had written these prophecies and died, and long after he died, 500 years after he died, okay? On the day of Pope Clement's birth, the Tiber River was overflowing. From a great river.
Whoa!
Interesting. The 90th Pope, Pope Innocent XIII, was from good religion, and this matches up because there were several popes that came from his family line. The 106th Pope, Pope Pius VII, was called an angelic shepherd, which scholars think fits really well because during his role in the Holocaust, wherein he directed his church to provide aid to the Jews and others, saving tens of thousands of lives. And I learned this is so cool. Even before he was the Pope, he was the Cardinal Secretary of State, which is basically like the head of foreign policy for the Vatican, because they're basically a country. And he was vocally anti-Nazism and even helped draft a letter to all the churches, of which they distributed over 300,000 copies in secret, that basically told people that Nazis were a disgrace to God. We love this. We love this. That was so dangerous. And
that is so dangerous to be that vocal about, like, to speak against any of that. Like,
I know.
Okay.
The Gestapo raided the churches the next day and confiscated all of the copies they could find, and any press that printed them were shut down. Like, it was a huge risk. So he was the angelic shepherd.
Oh, love that, though.
The words of the 108th Pope are translated as flower of flowers. Now, that Pope was Paul VI, and his coat of arms included 3 fleur-de-lis, 3 flowers. Ooh. Flower of flowers. The 109th Pope was translated as, this is insane, the 109th Pope is translated as of the half moon, and that Pope was John Paul, who was born in the Diocese of Belluno, beautiful moon, and he became Pope on a night in 1978 when the moon was exactly half full in its waning phase, he died the following month, right after a total eclipse of the moon.
Total eclipse of the moon. Oh my gosh, John Paul. You fulfilled.
John Paul.
John Paul.
Just give me the life.
And I got the half moon. That is wild. Okay.
It's a little crazy.
Okay. I like it.
Right after him, the 110th Pope is translated as of the solar eclipse, and that Pope would be John Paul II, who was born during a total eclipse of the sun. He was also buried during a solar eclipse. The 111th Pope is the glory of the olive, and Pope Benedict was literally known for his efforts to promote peace worldwide. He was the first Pope in 600 years to step down instead of just fucking die. So people often see his handing off of the throne as a link to the handing off of or extending an olive branch.
Oh, my Lanta.
Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but Benedict was Pope 111. We're running out of popes because we are currently, right now, as we speak, living in the time of the final pope.
No.
112, baby.
You're right. Okay, so we are in the end times. But again, I should be stressed, but I weirdly feel at peace. I've had a nice time, but I'm kind of stressed out and like I'm okay to say see you later.
The 112th prophecy reads as such, quote, "In extreme persecution, the seat of the Holy Roman Church will be occupied by Peter the Roman, who will feed the sheep through many tribulations, at the term of which the city of 7 hills, Rome, will be destroyed, and the formidable judge will judge his people." The end.
The end.
No big deal, just the end.
The end.
The end. Fade to black. No more popes. Now, Peter the Roman, our current pope is Pope Francis I, named after Saint Francis of Assisi, whose full name was Francesco de Pietro Peter di Bernardone, an Italian who was once a beggar in Rome. Peter the Roman. He is our last pope.
I just feel like I also wish I had like an Italian flag. I wish I had a flag of planet Earth.
Just a white flag. Surrender.
Yeah, I surrender. I mean, that's it. Like, we're done. We're all done.
Pretty terrifying. But here's the thing, and what I like to remind people when they're being told that it's the end. Apocalypses happen all the time. Endings.
Right.
Revelations. The death tarot card. The end doesn't necessarily mean the world's going to be destroyed. It may actually signify the beginning of something, a new era, a totally new birth of the world, or even it could be talking about the fall of the Catholic Church. They've had some trials and tribulations.
They've had some issues. And besides all of the like super horrific things that we know, to be honest, like the last pope that you mentioned, who was like way more progressive than most recent popes, I thought that was going to be the ending, because I felt like everyone was so up in arms of like, you are not traditional and you're trying to change things. It felt like that made a little bit of a shift as well. So I don't know.
I don't know.
It crumbling down.
It could. But, and also, this is just another tidbit that's probably going to make a lot of people feel better and more safe. Several historians think that this is a 16th century forgery, that Saint Malachi actually did not write this. And the reasons they think that is, so Saint Bernard, the contemporary biographer of Malachi, Saint Malachi, who recorded his alleged miracles, never mentions the Pope prophecy. It's kind of weird. You'd think that in his writings he might mention this pretty big thing that happened. And the earliest known reference to all of it is from 1587, when a Spanish monk wrote about these supposed prophecies. And then in the 1700s, a scholar compared the verses that came before the publication of the manuscript to the ones that came after the publication. So like at this time, there was like 200 years in between. So the prophecies that were written from 1100 AD to 1590 AD were super accurate. And then the ones from 1590 to 1730, not so much. So he was thinking these had to actually been written around the time they were published, not 400 years prior when Saint Malachi was alive.
All right, so some questions.
About the document. The conspiracy goes even further because there was a 17th century French priest, Louis Moreri, that claimed it may have been written in support of Cardinal Simoncelli, in support of his bid to become pope during the 1590 conclave. Basically, he believed this document was a fake that was created and an unsuccessful attempt to demonstrate or prove that Simoncelli was destined to be the pope. Like, basically, he wrote his pope prophecy to be like, see, like, it says he's going to be our next pope.
This is it.
And
like,
it didn't work.
You can't doubt it. The prophecy. Sorry.
So
sometimes campaign promises just don't
pan out. Despite the insistence of a lot of scholars saying the document was a forgery, it's still super weird.
It's very weird.
So many of the popes have connections to the prophecies. But as with Nostradamus,
a lot of it,
the prophecies are also very vague. And that's like, it could be anything. Like, you could make it fit into what you want it to fit in.
Which people say about horoscopes all the time. Like, we make it work.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to make it work, you can make it work. And I do understand that, but also, it's all true.
It's all true.
Aliens are real.
Aliens are real.
I am a witch.
And
Ashley is a
right
witch.
now. It's coming.
It's fine. Like, just believe us.
This is going to remain a mystery unsolved. But I guess if the world ends on Pope Francis's watch, we will finally know the truth. And you all lucky kids can go to Prophecy of the Pope's Wikipedia, and you can read every single prophecy and how it possibly connects with the Pope at the time. If you want to take a look for yourself. Compare the popes to their Pope prophecies.
Subscribe, like and subscribe. I mean, that is still wild. Like, it's wild no matter what, but interesting that there are some questionable moments.
They do seem, I mean, there was a couple that lined up in really weird fucking ways.
Yes, where I, like, almost threw up, but, we'll see.
Where I almost barfed.
Violently ill over here. No, but, yeah, it definitely makes you take a pause, but I'm gonna jump into something that will make us say, probably time to end the world because we're all terrible.
Good.
Tom's house was broken into and he confronted the burglar and then had to go have eye surgery.
You know that it's our time. These are the weirdest days of our lives.
It's not about the pasta.
We've got more honey than any honeybee. Hive mind. Get crazy, get loud, get crazy, get loud. Cabs here! Let's find out what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real weird. It's Reality TV Corner.
Yeah. How dare you? How dare me? You came to me. And I apologize.
Reality TV Corner. Here we go.
Reality TV Corner.
I know, get crazy, get loud. Reality TV is our life, and Ashley, I feel like I have questions for you also, but this is for after the pod because we have things to discuss. But reality TV related, we always have to have a sidebar. But this reality TV corner is upsetting and is honestly, though, part of the reason that I wanted the segment to be on here, because it is bizarre, it is weird, and it is like such a microscope look at humanity and like some of the evil that unfortunately exists. So I wanted to do this topic for a long time. I saved it as soon as I started this segment, but listen, some weeks went by and then guess what? A documentary came out about it. Not surprising because it's a wild story, but I just want everyone to know that I promise I was cool before this doc came out, and I haven't watched it yet. But I read like a little summary online. It's 90 minutes. It's on Hulu. We'll talk about it at the end. I'll give it a little moment, but I don't think it does the complete deep dive. So I still am like, yeah, I'm going to go into it. But I was like, how dare you?
So listen here first before you watch the doc.
But this could be one of the most disturbing reality shows to ever exist. It took place in Japan. There was a man named Tamaki Hamatsu, aka Nasubi, or Nasubi, was cast on the show Susunu Denpa Shonen in 1998. And he joined it under false pretenses and had no idea that he was going to spend the next 15 months of his life naked and isolated in an apartment.
I
broadcast live
heard about
to like 20 million people
for the first time.
I know, and it's from 1998, but like Reddit just got a hold of it from what I can find for the first time in like 2017.
Okay.
And then just in May of this year,
because it's clearly not it wasn't streaming on, it wasn't on ABC.
No, right. It wasn't easy to find. No, and it was like only on Japanese television. Yeah. So it was like, it just came over. But yeah, like Reddit found it in 2017 or maybe in 2016. And then like a doc came out in 2024. So now like a lot more people are fully aware. So some of you may have heard of this, but he was broadcast to like 20 million, maybe more people. It was a super popular Japanese game show, but never had there been any situation like this, because this was a show that was on for about 5 years, and they put contestants in strange webcammy type situations, like having them fend for themselves. But this person went through hell. So first off, Nasubi, like the reason that is the nickname of this contestant, it translates to eggplant, which is a nickname given to Tamaki because of his long face shape, but also producers used an eggplant to cover his genitals on screen, which I'm like, this was 1998, I have to remind you, and now the eggplant is always the
how do we
penis
know
emoji. So I'm like, I just kind of am like,
emojis
hello.
are Japanese.
Yeah, but I'm like, of course Japan was on it, but I'm like, I just love hearing that that was going on in 1998. Now that is like just commonplace. But
wow.
So he signed up for this Japanese game show, Susunu Denpa Shonen, in 1998, thinking it was going to change his life.
Yeah.
The premise of the show was that he had to live alone in an apartment and he could not buy anything or bring any items with him, but he had to acquire items by winning them from mail-in sweepstakes. He would finish the challenge once he had earned 1 million yen, roughly $8,000, in only a sweepstakes prize given way. So what started innocently, quote unquote, enough, like, because I also just think this sounds unhinged already, but what started somewhat innocently enough quickly became a horrible, twisted downfall into madness, and this man just being like deprived of basic needs and made fun of on television. So he was isolated from the outside world, naked because he had to win clothes, and observed by an unseen audience for a grand total of 335 days before he finally reached his target amount.
Okay.
This man, just like a quick backstory, he was born in 1975, again, like known as Nasubi, like everybody nicknamed him that. And this, I guess, started even before the show, but it caught on, and that's like why they started using the eggplant for his genitalia. But there's not a ton of history on his upbringing, but by the time he was in his 20s, what we do know is he did want to be a comedian or just a showman, a performer of some type. And so he gets this opportunity that comes to his lap that says, we have a show business related job for you.
Opportunity.
He is a young up and coming entertainer, so he's like, let's do it. And it's on this Japanese reality television show that had other seasons. So Susunu Denpa Shonen, which translates to do not proceed, crazy youth, which is just funny and fascinating knowing the end of this. But so the show like had already been on for one season, I believe, but he was like, oh, this is going to be great. So he got on there, but this specific challenge, because it changed season to season, it was called My Life in Prizes. So he came on to this and the producers said, you have to live alone, the mail-in, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, I can do this, but like, I'm going to be naked. All he knew of the cameras that he was aware of in the room were that they were webcams. But in 1998, this was a new thing, and reality TV was very much not a thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like, oh, I'm the Truman Show and people can watch me at all times. I think he was just like, it's almost like what we know blogs or vlogs as today. Like he was being recorded, but he didn't think he was being broadcast live to
God.
millions of people, but he was.
Yeah, he thought that like maybe they were gathering footage that they would then edit together to make a show and like cut things out that weren't appropriate or
precisely
not show him nude to his entire country, maybe.
Exactly. So they did him the service of the eggplant over his genitalia, but like he did not
Guys.
know how much he was being watched by everybody. They also had a laugh track going
Oh my
over
God.
everything he did. And so people would watch him once like a little bit edited together with the laugh track over it, even though everything he's going through is sad. And like it took him a while to win prizes and get money and get a proper amount of food. He was getting like very minimal.
Jake Johnson.
Jake Johnson?
Jake Johnson just talked about this. That's how I know it.
Wait, on his podcast?
He talked about it on Stavi's World, on Stavros Halkias's podcast. Yes. Yeah, that's where I knew it from. Because he said he got some inspiration from it for that movie he just did on Hulu. That was mid. It was fine.
All right.
He was good.
But I love that.
Yeah.
Because I love me some Jake Johnson.
Same.
I was just watching...
Nick Miller.
I was watching podcast clips of him and Winston talking about all of their bits and behind the scenes things. And I was like, I haven't watched New Girl in so long, but I just love you too. And like, talk about it forever.
I know.
Okay. So Nasubi, he couldn't purchase food, entertainment, communication devices.
This is crazy.
For him was the apartment itself and basic utilities such as water, electricity, heat, and a stack of magazines in which he could find the mail-in sweepstakes that would provide more for him.
Okay.
When he arrived, the producers asked him to remove all of his clothing and pointed him to the stack of magazines and a pen, and they just said, good luck. He assumed the show would film and later be edited once the production had wrapped. Again, knew nothing about the cameras, but he was being taped and the show was rebroadcast shortly after once the footage was gathered and the emojis were put over it. It was so popular that the format was eventually switched to a 24/7 live stream, which utilized new technology. Again, this is brand new at the time. And the technology was able to do this 24/7 coverage, broadcasted out. And on top of it, the new technology could cover his genitalia live because that was also very brand new.
I bet you got little peaks, though. You know you got little peaks.
Every once in a while, that icon probably moved.
He jumped.
We probably saw some things. So he lost a good deal of weight before winning some sugary drinks in one of the sweepstakes that he entered. His first big win came in the form of a large bag of rice. And finally he had something to eat, but there was another problem. He had nothing to cook it with. He had no stove, no pans, no nothing. He had to just eat rice raw. But at least it was mother trucking something. And just a reminder, like nobody is sneaking in his room and actually giving him nutrients. He's just eating raw rice in front of the whole world and nobody is doing anything about it. Then he devised a method of cooking the rice in a bag placed like next to one tiny flame. He was able to get like, I think there was a stove, but it like didn't turn on most of the burners, but like one tiny like, what is it called? The pilot light came on and he was able to cook the rice next to the pilot light and
that's insane.
Kind of heat it up. And he had to discover that because he's basically on the show Lost or on Survivor. But he shouldn't be. So he had nothing to entertain himself with, no one to talk to, no personal hygiene tools. His hair started to grow long and unruly, as did his fingernails. He spent all of his time naked and he finally won a pair of women's underwear. They didn't fit him. So he had absolutely nothing. He eventually won dog food. That was probably the best nourishment he got, he has said later in interviews. So that is unfortunate. He also won a stuffed animal and that became his friend. And then it even eventually graduated to sensei. Became a bit of a mentor. So he was only communicating with this stuffed animal. It was like, this is my friend.
Right.
Like, I have to talk to somebody and I'm going to eat dog food and have my, I know Wilson, which I'm like, don't get me started on how much I cried when that damn volleyball floated away. So I feel like that is what he is going through. He would occasionally win prizes like movie tickets or a bike, but you can't use any of those things. And just I have to say these things because I'm like, he's winning these prizes, which is the whole point of the game, but half of them are not helpful to him. And the fact that nobody was like, should we step in for the survival of this man? But no, instead they're inserting more laugh tracks. They're having watch parties. Like popular Japanese, like social and like pop culture based shows are starting to get the 24/7 feed and making their shows revolve around them. Like people are, it basically is the Truman Show where people are like gathered having watch parties, like 100 people deep.
Except for Truman lived a pretty comfortable life.
He did. I know, it's like everybody could see him, but he had basic nutrients. But like just like the being watched and being laughed at part of like and not being in on it. But yes, this man is starving. He is not Truman living the comfy life. He even won a TV at one point, and he was so desperate for just like knowing what was happening in the world around him, or also having entertainment besides his stuffed animal mentor. But they said, we are not giving you access to cable, so like goodbye. And also, we don't want you to accidentally catch your feed.
Oh yeah, duh.
But I was like, but his popularity was becoming so big that production started to become worried because people were starting to learn of his location based on clues they were getting from the apartment, and fans and paparazzi were starting to arrive outside. And Nasubi even one night was awoken by it, and they were like, come with us, we will take you with us, like jump out the window, we'll help this happen. But finally, producers intervened. Oh, like we don't care about him eating or taking, care of himself, but we'll intervene and like get you out of here so the fans can't take you away. So there was a super heartbreaking moment where he was moved to a new apartment, and he thought he was blindfolded and moved. And so he finally thought that something was going to change, but they just moved him to a new, more secret location. And they had taken the rice out of his prize bag when he arrived, and he was basically starting from scratch when he finally thought he was being released. And this had been months at this point. He finally, in this new apartment, continuing with his sweepstakes, won a pan to cook his rice in, and he got a VCR and a PlayStation so he could entertain himself. So like things were looking up, quote unquote, but he was not well. But then he won a set of 4 car tires, but no car.
Good.
But it got him closer to his goal because of the value. So that was good. And then it was 1 more bag of rice, classic, that finally pushed him to his 1 million yen mark, and his isolation came to an end. So he was like brought out into the world. He had been in isolation for 335 days, but then he was brought to another location and asked to strip down once again. For what reason? Nobody knows. Just for the public.
Just for humiliation's sake.
Then he was tasked with the challenge of surviving on sweepstakes winnings, and the producers informed him that once he was naked, that he did not need to accept the challenge if he didn't want to, even though he was already naked in front of the whole world once again. And because he was so, I like to think, and like obviously psychologists and people who have looked into this think, because he was in such a strange physical and mental state by this point, and it had been months and months, his brain said, I want to do it. He was like, I've come this far. I will accept another challenge. So he did it again, but this time his goal was only to win enough to pay for an economy class ticket on Japan Airlines to return home. And he reached that goal too quickly. So then producers said, business class instead. Oh, no, then first class, just to keep him even longer.
Oh my God.
But he did reach his goal in a matter of weeks, and he was flown back to Japan and then taken to another apartment. Nasubi looked around the small apartment, removed his clothes, and he was like, am I still not done? And the producers were like, we have one more thing. You are back in Japan, but we have one more thing for you. Because I guess at some point he was in Japan, but was moved. I think the third location was moved to South Korea. And it was like, good morning. But now he's back in Japan. And they say, we have one more surprise in store. The walls in this last apartment collapse around him, and he is surrounded by a massive crowd of cheering people. You can see this moment on YouTube. He is naked. He looks
bewildered?
like Tom Hanks from Castaway, speaking of that Wilson moment, and he is horrified. It actually like brings a lump to my throat because I watched just that clip, because again, I haven't watched the whole documentary. I'm sure it shows a lot more, but he is just like, he's bewildered, he's shocked, he's sad. No part of him is relieved. He's just like, a whole audience is here. And this fake apartment was in the middle of a television studio, and a large TV was displaying a live feed for him and for everyone to see. And he still had no idea that it had been broadcast this whole time, but he was just kind of like, what? Like, he didn't even know what to do. So the hosts finally talked to him, say that he has finally won, but he basically couldn't speak and was kind of mute through the whole thing. He had spent 15 months alone in a couple of different apartments, but completely isolated, naked, barely any food, nothing to keep him busy. But yet the show broke multiple records. And his memoir about the experience, like, of course, that he wrote, you would hope, became a bestseller, but also took a major toll on him. And I know that he wrote a bestseller, but then also like the Hulu documentary he was interviewed on, I know, but I think after that he was like, and then I never want to talk about it again, because he is still like, I actually can't believe that this happened to me. And like, I do want people to hear about what I experienced, but at the same time, like, what is wrong with the world?
I can't imagine watching something like that and finding it entertaining.
I know. As much as I love reality TV, I'm like, I don't think this would have gotten me. I would have been really upset. I would like to think, I shouldn't say that because I wasn't, aware of this existing at the time, but I can't see myself enjoying this.
No, I think I would be pretty horrified. But I also wonder how many of them thought that it was fake in some way.
Yeah.
Like that he knew what was going on. He knew he was being, like, he was in on it. He was getting compensated really well, like something. I wonder if like
I've
part
thought
of
of that
them were
too.
like, oh, he signed up for this. He knew what he was going to get into. And like, it's all sort of,
I agree.
But I don't know. I haven't seen any clips of it. It seems pretty horrifying to me.
And that is why I was like, at the end, I will give a shout out to the documentary. It is called The Contestant, and it is on Hulu if you have a subscription to that, or if you can borrow a friend. From what I've read, again, like now I kind of want to watch it, but I think it interviews people who admit to being fully invested, and interviews producers who worked on it, who have now like had a bit of a come to Jesus moment, saying like, we didn't fully understand what we were doing. The producers I have less, grace for, but the people who are watching it, I do think there's people who come forward who are like, we watched it because we didn't know that the bad treatment was as real as it was. Like, we were just seeing it as a piece of entertainment. We had to believe he was more in on it. So I do think there's something to that.
There's fear factor and things like that, but all those people, like, at any point they could be like, no, thank you, I won't eat the bugs.
Correct. Did they know he had no way out?
Yeah, lay on a bed of nails or whatever. Do you remember MTV's Fear?
Yes.
That show was so
I felt like they
scary.
went too far. It was so
way
terrifying.
Too far. I remember there was one episode where like one of the challenges was, they always had to go off on their own, which like, no, like there's no way.
You need somebody else.
I wouldn't even go off on my own. Like, they'd be like, Ashley, you have to go to the far corner of the field. I'd be like, I'm out. Sorry, I guess I don't win.
Don't give me the money then. Like, I am out.
They made this girl go. They were like on this haunted farm, and they made this girl go, and basically she had to take like 2 full bites of like a pig's foot.
Yep. It was a pig something, and I remember the exact episode. I think it was one that I had to like either hide behind a blanket from or just turn off. And I was like, no.
I don't remember if she did it or not, but I remember just being like, no way in hell would you give me to eat a pig's foot or a pig's ear or a pig's. I can barely eat a pig. I can barely eat ham.
I can barely eat Canadian bacon. I cannot eat. No.
A honeyed ham.
No, and when it's like, there's no seasoning. It is just a raw, like,
it's a
foot
raw
thrown in your face. Brr. Fear was bad. Fear factor was bad. Like, and naked and afraid is even bad. I'm like, all of these things lead into what this man was put through, and everyone was just watching. And he, like, he has given speeches at like many different things, and again, like, did this documentary, and like there's pictures of him speaking like with Japan's Ministry of Justice, and during COVID he gave a lot of talks because he was like, here was what isolation was for me, and if you are feeling alone, let me talk you through it. Which I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you were born for this, like, you're one of the only people who can speak to this in such a unique and important way. So like, he has been able to do so much with that, which is exciting. And he still did end up doing like a little bit of acting work in Japan, you know, and like a few guest starring roles here and there. So he never stopped performing and seeking entertainment, which I'm like, good for you. You didn't give up on your dream. But for the most part, he is just like, I have never been put through something so difficult. And looking back, I'm like, what happened?
Do you know, was there any point during the show that he was like, I want to go home, I want to quit?
Yes, because he would say it to the cameras, not knowing if anyone was listening, but he was also, before he got his stuffed animal, and probably even after too, that he was talking to a bit, so you could like hear his true thoughts, and I think he vented to the animal. But he would write postcards and letters, even like, not even to anybody specifically, but he was just writing to anybody who would listen. It was like, I need to get out of here. I need to find a way home. I thought filming like would have stopped by now. Like, he did say it a few times, but nobody was checking in with him. So he just had to like accept it.
Was he locked in?
Yeah, he had no way out, and no one was checking in with him. He was only checked in on like if a delivery was being made, or the couple of times he was being moved, or the time that fans were like disrupting his sleep. So it was like, otherwise no one was speaking to him. And like, I did see one clip of like a speaker coming on and saying like, hey, we're dropping off a prize, and he is like horrified when the speaker comes on because he's been living in silence for so long. And it really shows his isolation and how he had no chance. It is insane that this existed. As crazy of a list as there is of reality shows, like, we can go on and on with this segment. This one is wild.
Yeah, it might just be time to end it.
I know.
We might just be done. We're cooked.
We're cooked,
Who
baby.
Would do this?
And that's why I'm like, listen, is the Pope prophecy for just the Catholics, or is it for all of us? Because we might deserve to
Japan,
burn.
Because what the fuck,
I know.
Japan.
Come on, Japan. You do a lot of things that I love, and I'm so excited about. But what was this?
But you do a lot of things that I am concerned about. Great. Well, before we go, let's get into
Real or O's. Y'all ready for this?
We had to wake ourselves back up. Also, we haven't done this segment in a minute. I'm very excited.
No, it's been a while. I don't think we've done one this season yet. So this is currently happening right now. And a new piece of the puzzle was announced earlier this week on Monday the 19th. It would have been included in our weird report, but we had to record that super early this month. And this is a case I've wanted to touch on the pod anyway. So what better time than now? Also,
excited.
The Weird Report, for anyone who doesn't know, is a Patreon exclusive episode that we release on the last day of the month that covers all the strange news stories, true crime updates, and horror entertainment announcements every single month. And you can listen to that on our Patreon at www.patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast. Okay. So, what do you know about the alien mummies in Mexico?
Zero.
Okay.
Tell me everything.
Last year, a press conference was held for Congress in Mexico about 3 1700-ish year old mummies that were supposedly extraterrestrial. I'm sure you've seen them if you don't remember.
I was like, I'm sure that I have. Honestly, TikTok is my source of news, but they give me a lot of these things.
2 of them look like cake. They look like 2 little cakes. They're very small.
Uh-huh. This is sounding familiar.
And it looks like you could just slice into them and they would just be cake, but they're supposedly corpses. And then there's one that's much larger but still quite small. It's a creature that is about 4 feet tall. He's kind of like in fetal position, holding his knees to its body. There's no ears, no eyes, or no ears, no nose, and 3 very long fingers and toes on its hands and feet.
I don't like the 3, but
neither does Joe. Joe had that 3-handed alien thing. Anyways.
I know, I don't like it.
The mummies were presented by Jaime Maussan, a Mexican journalist and ufologist who claimed that these mummified corpses were found in a mine in Cusco, Peru, suspiciously close to the Nazca lines, which we literally just talked about on Witchy Wednesday. We've talked about them on the show before.
Witchy Wednesday.
They've actually been they're sometimes referred to as the Nazca aliens as well. So,
well, this makes sense.
He claimed at this press conference that the National Autonomous University of Mexico came to the conclusion, after rigorous testing, that these corpses were not a part of our terrestrial evolution and that almost a third of their DNA is of unknown origin.
Spooky-ooky.
Now, this was met with a lot of criticism immediately because Maussan is pretty well known as a fraudster.
Oh, well.
In 2015, he revealed a mummified body of an alien child that ended up just being the mummified body of a regular human child. Well. Not great, but also, like, who hasn't made that mistake?
Haven't we all been there?
Haven't we all? At one time or another.
Yeah, you know, regular mistake.
Mistaken a human mummy for an alien mummy. And then
Sure.
In 2017, he revealed a mummified alien that ended up being a doll covered in paper mache. And now,
Yep.
He, in 2023, he's got 3 new corpses that are supposedly aliens. But I do think fraudster is maybe a little harsh because I truly think he believes that that people are bringing him these specimens and they're real.
Right.
But like, don't announce this shit to the entire world when you don't.
That's what I'm saying. Because we've talked about like the paper mache like monkey dolls that have been found, and it's just like, why are you telling everybody about it? Like,
learn your lesson.
Let's go. Yeah,
fool me once. I thought maybe he had learned his lesson because this time these corpses had been, according to him, thoroughly tested by a university. But one of the physics researchers at that university came forward to say they never endorsed those findings and that actually they only performed the carbon dating testing, nothing else. And they didn't even come to a concrete conclusion aside from the sample that they were given was over 1,000 years old. So, no. But then, months later, Jaime came back before Congress and brought with him the testimonies of several doctors who said that these corpses were in fact the bodies of previously deceased biological organisms, but they couldn't certify whether or not they were extraterrestrial, but they were actual mummified corpses. Okay. And in fact, we now have x-rays of the mummies and we are able to determine that it's not a doll, it's not plaster, it is a corpse, and if it is a hoax, it's possibly one of the best hoaxes we've ever seen.
Like, how would you pull this off? Like, how?
Well, because there's no.
How are you making the
There's
skeleton?
no evidence of glues, adhesives, or stitching that suggests that these mummies are pieces of other animals and people stitched together to create them.
Put together, yeah.
There doesn't seem to be plaster on any part of them. Now, that doesn't mean that they aren't just mummified human remains. They could just be some guys. But
oh, Steve.
Could just be Steve. But they would definitely have to be a Steve that has some sort of deformity. But again, not out of the realm of possibility.
It is unique. Yeah.
Totally could happen. One of the interesting aspects that you can see in the x-rays of these mummies is what looks to be an implant in the chest cavity. They look to have something in their chest cavity. Well, Monday they released some of their findings on these implants. They are metal, and they are claiming that one of the compounds found, the most interesting compound they found in the testing of the metal, was something called osmium.
Osmium.
According to them, osmium is a super rare metal. It's not easy to find. It's extremely expensive and toxic to humans. So I was like, I'm fact checking every one of those.
Of course.
As for how rare osmium is, you would have to mine over 400,000 pounds of rock to get 1 gram of osmium.
Okay.
It is about 1,500 times rarer than gold.
It's a little rare.
It's pretty rare.
So it's like,
it's pretty rare.
Unique, having its moment. Okay.
Also, don't forget, these things have been carbon dated to be about 1,000 years old. We did not discover osmium until 1803.
Oh, damn. Okay. Oh my God.
And these things are dated to be like 300 to 400 AD. So rare?
Yeah.
Yes. Very rare. So then I was like, is it expensive? I assume so if it's so rare. And it is. It's about $1,200 a gram. Okay. But the thing is Masson never said how much osmium they discovered in the mummy. Only that trace amounts have been discovered. And metametals.com claims that osmium is one of the most expensive precious metals in the world, but that's because you have to convert it into crystalline form because of its toxicity. It can cause chemical burns to the eyes, skin, the respiratory tract. Inhalation of osmium could be fatal, and just coming into direct contact with it prior to crystallization could cause irreversible eye damage, blindness, and long-term damage to the liver and kidneys. So toxic and expensive seems correct.
Check. Yep.
So then I was like, damn, what is osmium even used for? Like, do we use it for anything? This seems very difficult to find and use.
Like, why do we have this thing? What are people doing?
It's not used for a lot because it is nowhere to be found, but it's been used in alloys to create really hard materials for things. Electrical contacts, plating on satellites, stuff like that. But I also found that it has a super high conductivity. It actually makes a more durable and effective alternative to gold for plating electronics, and that osmium alloys are often found in pacemakers and heart replacement valves, which was interesting to me because they found this inside the mummy's chests.
Yeah, in the heart area.
So, finding osmium samples in the metal implants is actually pretty interesting because it doesn't seem like a material someone would use in a hoax.
No. And
how? It's expensive, it's rare, it's toxic to work with. Like, how would you get it in there?
Again, like, best hoax ever and done by a billionaire. So
before we write the mummies off completely, it does seem like there's something very strange about them.
There is. It needs more investigating. Like, it is not, it's not, everything you just said shows that, like, we can't write it off. Like, it is, things have been proven that show this would either have to be the most elaborate, expensive hoax of all time, or something is going on.
And if it is a really elaborate, expensive hoax, who is pulling the hoax? And for why? Who's doing
this and why? Like, what's your goal? What's your purpose? But I think something is here.
As of today, several scientists, not just ufologists, have studied samples and found them anomalous and worthy of scientific scrutiny. So far, the samples and the mummies have been studied by over 50 experts, including surgeons, radiologists, bone specialists, biologists, biophysicists, molecular geneticists, biochemists, anthropologists, astrophysicists, spectrometrists, metallurgic engineers, chemical engineers, and even forensic anthropologists who all pretty much agree these should be studied and taken more seriously.
Don't sweep them aside. Keep taking a look. I love when the scientists are like, hey, let's get weird.
Yeah, well, because a lot of super professional organizations won't touch it because they're like, it's obviously fake.
Right.
But there's a bunch of like smaller, but still experts in their field saying, hey, hello, hi, we should actually look at these and figure out what they are.
Yes.
And if they're fake. And if they are, how the fuck did someone do this? Like, it's crazy.
How did somebody pull this off? So, like, either way, we should be looking into it.
We should look at it. I'm going to provide several links in the description of this video. One of those links is a list of the scientists who have studied them, what aspect they studied, and what their findings were. So, real or hoax, as usual, our answer is, I don't know. Could be either one.
Could go either way, and you should weigh in and also do your own research and let us know.
You should test the biological material of these mummies. What are you doing with your time?
Put on your gloves.
Put on your gloves.
Like,
strap on your goggles.
Like, get out there.
What are you doing? Hello. Okay, well, that's all the time we have this week for Keep It Weird. Thank you so much for joining us once again. I am going to spin the wheel if I can find my phone.
I'm excited and nervous.
Please, everyone, follow us on social media at Keep It Weirdcast. Join our Patreon, patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like all of our videos. Like our TikToks. Like us. Love us.
They like us. They really like us. Also, our TikTok has been popping off lately. And when I say popping off, anybody else would joke about it because like it's not popping off in like another way. But for us.
Yeah. You know what? It's consistency. That's the key.
I know. Which, I mean, we've said that from the beginning.
Who can be consistent in this world?
But now we have Witchy Wednesday.
Spin.
Can't be consistent. I have aliens to investigate.
Random question. Pull out that fucking Google Doc, lady. Question, read all about it. Lauren's got a question and we want to talk about it. Go questions.
What is the speed of dark?
Oh. Would it be equal to the speed of light?
Would they be equal or does dark not have a speed because there's nothing being...
It's the absence of something. You know how light does.
It's me shooting out like the speed of light.
You know how light is.
If I do this movement.
Yeah, because it's the absence
does dark have a speed?
No, dark does... Well,
I don't... That's my question,
now,
Ashley.
Lauren, does dark have a speed? You know, the universe is made up of, like, mostly something that we don't know what it is. Like, we know that there's something in the empty space, but we don't know what it is.
Okay, how do you measure the speed of dark, the speed of black, the speed of night?
I don't think it has a speed. Because light...
I don't think it does
light
either.
is actual particles.
Light has to travel. Yeah. That's why I'm like, I want to say it's 0, but I like not being 100% sure. And that was the only reason I asked this question is like, don't quote me.
But I think it would be an absolute like cut off of the particle of light. So it would be no speed at all. It would be like a wall.
That's what's interesting, is that's literally what Google says. Like, we were trying to explain this in our own Dumbo words, but that's literally what it's saying. Yeah. It's like darkness is the absence of light, but in this respect, darkness has the same speed as light.
So I'm as smart as Google. Wow.
Ashley's a genius,
wow.
Everybody.
We didn't know we'd find that out today, but we learn something new every week.
Anyway, I think dumb questions are a fun end to the
Same.
segment, and I can't wait to add more
to
my
our
list.
repertoire. In the meantime, we hope you guys have a lovely week. We hope your August was full of gifts from the universe and winks from the divine. And your September is going to be even better. I just fucking know it. Have a good one.
Especially because you can start decorating for Halloween and nobody can tell you.
Yeah, no one can like judge you too harshly. Keep it
Keep it
weird.
weird.
Love you.